Thank you.
So, what am I doing? Just looking over?
Yep, an initial sign off on.
Sign off.
Yep, there's a sign, there's a place
Oh,
on the
oh,
bottom,
okay.
but yeah, just make sure.
Good.
A little bit.
Yeah, okay, okay. So,
Sure. However you want to do it. You want to do a few now before we get started?
okay, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Morning, everyone. Let's call the meeting to order here at 8:32 for the Finger Lakes Horizon EDC. We'll start with our introduction of guests, and we have Steve Meyer with Air Speech on the phone. Hi, Steve. And we have our board member Serene participating on online as well. And in the room, we have Mr. Jim Moon. So, welcome to our guests. We don't need an executive session for this, so we'll move on to the review and approval of our minutes from our January 18th meeting.
So moved.
Thanks.
Second.
The second, Mary Ann. All in favor, say aye.
Discussion.
Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, carried. We do have a change in the agenda, and that is to remove our action item. So we're going to table that to our next meeting, and that's for the loan change to Seneca Suds. That'll be reviewed at a later date.
Yeah, the loan review committee just requested some additional information on it, which is still forthcoming, so we'll likely present it next month.
So then our only other item for this agenda today then is to turn it over to Doreen for the finance report. There's some checks to.
I have two checks today, $354 and $355, totaling $200,000, which are loans that were previously approved last year, Crispin Hill and Herpington House, which hopefully are closing here in the next couple of weeks.
Next week.
Next week.
Thanks, Doreen. And thanks for sending that out, the check detail to us prior to that meeting.
I apologize, I don't have copies for you, but our copier supplies were delivered on Monday and I don't have them yet, so.
It's all right, the electronics did it that way.
Sustainability.
But if you happen to know of where there could be a white door with white siding somewhere, that's all the clue we were given. Yes,
Somewhere in the
picture. It was like half of the bottom of the door with the box in front of it.
Not yet.
That's too bad.
Is there a geotag on the picture?
All right, so then I'd ask for a motion to accept that finance report and approve paying those specific checks.
So moved, Amy. Seconded.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that's carried. And with that, I'd ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Cutler, in a second. All right, we are adjourned. All right. So then let's turn to and we'll call the meeting to order here at 8:35. Almost hit the time on the agenda for the first time ever. But the Finger Lakes Economic Development Center meeting, and we have the same guests participating. Do we need an executive session today?
Yes. So discuss company financials.
Okay, so I'd ask for a motion to enter executive session for the discussion of specific company financials.
So moved, Amy.
Thank you, Amy.
Seconded.
All right, thank you. All in favor? Or we don't need a vote on that? a thorough assessment of the realtors in the area.
Talk about like behind my back. We need a little countdown.
Kind of re-enter the open session here. I'd ask for a motion to exit executive session and to do that. Open.
So moved, Amy.
Thank you, Amy.
Second.
Tim? All right, we're back in open session. And we'll move on with our agenda, which our next item is the review and approval of our minutes from our January 18th meeting. They were sent out ahead of time. Anybody have any questions or comments?
So moved.
Second.
Second, Amy. Any discussion? Corrections, discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, that's carried. Do we have any changes for this agenda?
I don't know.
Jump into the finance report.
I have checks today, 6128 to 6161 plus, one part of that didn't go out with the checks under the checking account E115 to E117, but they total $756,181.19, of which $709,320 is the Empire pipeline pilot payments that are gonna go out today. We received that in January. I also have check number 54 and 55 from the Ag checking account for $101,108.62, which $100,000 is loan that's gonna close, and the other was a payment that we received on one check to the FLHEDC, and the $1,108 needs to go to the FLHEDC. That made us look in January that we had a positive of $694,000, which of course was receiving the pipeline money, which will go out in February, so next month we'll look at that. But they'll all even out after that. I don't know if anybody's got any questions. Let's see. Do you have anything?
Ask for a motion to accept the finance report and approve paying those specific checks.
So moved, Amy.
Second, Marion. Any further discussion or questions for Doreen on that?
I don't know if Serene had a question or if she was seconding, but I heard.
What's her avatar?
I know.
Second.
Okay. Just checking.
All right, so hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's carried. Let's turn it over to the staff here for the management reports.
No updates. If anybody's got any questions?
Mike, what do you have for us?
So I met with the Penny Academy on Friday regarding the new work-based learning program that basically just kicking off. Impressive. The school has done a tremendous amount of work leading up to the first meeting, bringing everybody in there. Ultimate goal is to create a work-based learning program that will kick off in January of next year. So right now we're starting with a fact-finding initiative, so both on the employer, administrator, and student side. Again, kind of the overall goal for this is to help students realize what they want to do post high school. So if they aren't necessarily looking to go to college, provide some opportunities and have them learn that on industries that are here and something that they may want to go into. But also those kids that are going to college. So they may think they want to be an accountant or a nurse. So get them into those fields early on to help them say, yeah, this is what I want to do, or no, that's not what I thought. Let's think again. Or again, the student that has no idea what they want to do. So it's to help the students, but also get students into the employers that are here and help hopefully the workforce issues that are ongoing, and start creating a pipeline of students from the academy, and we're gonna eventually get Tuckney involved as well, so that we can help some of the challenges that are ongoing. So we'll start with the work shadow program, and then phase 2 and 3, once that's established, would be more apprenticeships, internships.
Are you in touch with Marcus Whitman?
We will be. I have not, but that's, we'll get them involved as well.
Have you reached out to the local businesses yet?
We have not, we will be next week probably, if not sooner. So I said, gonna be sending a list over to the Academy of employers across the county, today. And then it's deciding which ones we wanna contact first, and then we'll be reaching out to those employers, conducting interviews, asking them basically what would benefit them, but also this is what they're looking for on the student side, and making sure we meet challenges that exist, the larger one being ensure the employers don't have the bodies necessarily to bring in a couple students right now, so trying to find a solution to that, and they're focused on getting their jobs done, so. And then there's other teams that are working on addressing the parent and the student concerns, so that this is create a more sustainable long-term program that can be in effect for years to come, and then just start something and burn off.
So it's more of a, like you said, a shadow program.
Yep.
It's not like an employer has to give them projects to work on their own. I mean,
We would like to get to that point. I think that's more effective, but again, I know it's a challenge from the employer, but if it's just a student hovering and watching, there's benefit to that, but also there may be some burnout to that, if they're not keeping their attention for too long, but I think that's the starting point.
Amy, do you guys have an internship program that they could learn from?
So Cuca College had the first experiential learning in the country. In 1943, it was established, and it's all field period. And we have an office of people where Steve is very familiar with it. And we have lots of mechanism. And one of the things that's difficult for me as a member of this group is hearing about the things that happen in the community where there are natural connections to the college, and I know that there are college professionals who are engaging on this topic, and yet it seems like we are reinventing the wheel a lot. So, you know, that's not a criticism of this idea or this program. I think it's great. I think that there are a lot of structures that exist right now, from BOCES to community college, that have existing structures to make those natural connections between businesses or trades and high school students. It's really just a matter of, as you said, having the bandwidth, because who's going to do that? The guidance counselors? They've already got other workload issues. So what I hope is that we avail ourselves of the existing structures that exist within the community, as opposed to creating new structures where perhaps we don't need them. But yeah, we've got a lot of expertise there. But I don't have anybody who has bandwidth to take on this project. So, you know, I've got 800 students who each do a field period every single year, and I've got two full-time staff people that deal with all of those field periods, and it's difficult. So, yeah, so I'm not minimizing this. I think, though, that it would be amazing if between Penyan Academy, us, and Cuca College, we could come up with a person to actually administer this within the framework that already exists, because I don't think it needs to be built from nothing. But that's really the barrier that I see.
So, good segue, we're doing that. we're starting to have those conversations, wanted to see a little bit of what Penyan had as a structure. This is, I think basically, a muscled up version of, we used to do, we called it Discovery Aids, if you remember that program where we were taking kids off-site after school, to see what different companies did, to see, understand what manufacturing is, to see what dailies was always a big one for us. Let the kids use a backhoe, that kind of thing. But between COVID and it not being a real program, just sort of us working with the tech teachers at the school, it fizzled out. So this is school led now, which is better because it'll have more hold. And so seeing what they had planned, and then taking it, for instance, like with Fastenal, we had a meeting yesterday or 2 days ago with them, is a great way to get them involved early in this conversation. See what the kids, come in and learn. There's Fastenal does all sorts of different things, without specifying it to them, but the high school kids could learn different factors of that business, have it move into the college. Working with us, we have a meeting next Tuesday with the school itself to see, how they already sort of have those, I don't know the terminology, but basically like the Gemini classes for where high school kids can get college credit. How can they utilize this? Would these job shadows act as a field period, or count as a field period, so that they then move into QCA with a couple of those additional credits already in hand? And so we're there. It's all in the development phase, and who do we speak to with all these different groups to get it going?
I think the piece that for me is missing is and maybe this is something that you naturally do, Steve, but it's explaining to the employer that there's certainly a benefit to them, right? They're looking for people, but there's a benefit to them for having high school students, and there could be a benefit to having college students, and maybe they're not the same roles. And how do you create this seamless process for the employer who doesn't need to have 17 different contacts in order to know like what gaps they have in their personnel and where we might come together and help each other out. So I think that is one of the pieces that's missing. And I've seen other colleges, I would say Roberts Wesleyan has a pretty good web presence about how they do this with corporate partners. I don't know that it intersects with the local high schools, but there's no reason that it couldn't be a one-stop shop for employers, which I think would lead to better chances for students.
So it
Just had all these, that whole thing was you're right on, I think you're right on point. We just had, most of my last couple of days have been on those exact comments and challenges and opportunities, and how do we, can't keep giving them 13 different people to go to make this work.
So, from my standpoint, if you're asking me to bring in college students and high school students, that's a lot. And if you're saying a shadow program, well, you kind of did it, but if you want us to provide a more of a robust experience to the high school student, that's babysitting to a certain degree. And I don't just, that's not the best term, but that takes time, right? And I think when they're at the college level, there's not as much hand holding, but I don't know that we could do both. But yet coming, let's say, to a manufacturing business, I mean, that's a great variety. There's more variety than if you go to a smaller business that's only got, smaller roles. So, I mean, it's something that we can figure out a way so that we can, it's too much of a demand on time, especially right now. I mean, everybody's we say we're understaffed, but we're trying to get to the point where we're saying we're appropriately staffed, because this looks like this is the the numbers we're going to be at for a long time. So, but it's still tight. It's tight. It's hard.
So the benefit of doing it in the high school, starting the high school aspect, is the different career opportunities available. If you're hitting presumably maybe the entry level side of things. You're gonna grab some of them from the high school as they move on to college, you're moving up the skill set, and
There's
so you're.
benefits, the benefits.
Right, so the job shadow, you might get them in on the entry level production side, for
Even
instance.
just, how do you come, coming to work and knowing you have to be on time, and
Right.
knowing,
Yeah.
I can't tell you what we have walking in the door lately. And I just was in a meeting this morning saying that we are going to raise our standards now, we're not just taking anybody, and a lot of the younger kids coming into the workforce, what do you mean you want me to be there 5 days a week, or what do you mean I gotta work 40 hours, it's that's what we're dealing with.
What do you mean I have to respond to email or phone calls
Yeah,
or?
exactly.
Yeah, it's.
Or not showing me direct when I show up with you.
It is a really.
Keep getting talked to about that.
Like, I don't know if
I just learned that last week.
If I'm getting old, I feel like, I just don't, I'm not understanding the.
The state liquor authority is closing in, I think, on almost being a full year behind on liquor approval licenses. In 2023, just that review department received an additional $2 million in funding applications to hire reviewers. At, I think it was April timeframe, they had something like 8 applicants out, or like they had job offers to or hired, and only 3 of them actually came to work. The other 5 just never even came.
Yeah.
And my numbers are off there a little
Right,
bit, but
right.
Yeah,
more
that
than
happens a
half
lot, yeah.
simply didn't show up.
Yeah, we have
So
that.
it's all over the place.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Well, I mean, that's part of what you're trying to get in this kind of thing, is to get young people at different levels to understand what it means to go to work.
Hang on 1 second, sir.
Develop those work habits.
Okay, sir, go ahead.
All right, I was just gonna say that we see that in healthcare as well, when people are signing up to do interviews, going through the whole interview process, and they haven't shown up to work, or just not showing up at all for weeks. I think it's just what they, it's something that, the new workforce is just changing a little bit, shifting a lot. If you don't help them for a while, you don't promote them as well.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think one question I have, and I don't know if this maybe is for Marianne or for Steve, but are there any reports that are indicating if and when this tight labor market is gonna relax at all, or is this likely to be, is this like the new normal?
I think, well, I'm sorry, I think it's the new normal.
Really?
And see, looking at your notes, Steve, I was gonna ask, because, as you said here, about, how did you put it, about, just the population in this area, and that we're gonna be hit harder, it's only gonna get worse.
The
And
recent
this
studies
is the new normal.
show that we've been, I was talking to Ryan about this the other day, if you kind of look at a bar chart of where the populations are, perfect population chart would show like the youngest population being the most, the largest,
yeah.
right, and it kind of
Yeah,
has this inverted
that's
funnel.
not where we are.
No, we're a ball.
Yeah.
And so the youngest are middle-aged.
We're fat in the middle.
You're fat in the middle, middle age is the highest, and then it shrinks again. The light at the tunnel is that for the first time in the last, I don't know whether it's 5 years or something like that, that youngest bracket pops back out.
Okay.
So we don't know if it's a trend yet or not, but if it continues, then it should be, fortunately, it might be another 10 to 15 years, but it should start to somewhat ease. But the challenge is, this is why we're looking at programs like we're talking about for at least the next 10 to 15. This is a countrywide challenge, unless something happens like immigration or something like that. Just U.S. births are not going to solve it. There's the same studies showed what that same chart looks like in other countries, and we're better Like China's really
I was
bad.
just gonna say,
China's
China's
really,
terrible.
really
Yeah.
bad. They got 50, 60, 70 years of this GLP, but
Steve,
we,
I'm sorry, I wanna come back to the discussion and go back through Steve and Mike if you have more updates on the management report, but I wanna, if we can jump ahead on the agenda to take care of our 2 action items, because I know Amy has to step out, and we need to form, and then we'll come back to the discussion and the management reports. So on the action items, the item number 1 is a loan request from Chris Bates and Lana Miller. Mike, if you want to present it for us.
So Chris Bates and Lana Miller are looking to purchase Indian Pines Farm Market. They are seeking assistance in a loan from us for $150,000. Interest on the loan would be 2%, reduced down to 1% as they sign up for automatic payments. Collateral on a loan would be a UCC filing on all assets, a second position mortgage on the property, and personal guarantees from Lana and Chris Bates. They are projecting to create 4 full-time equivalent positions over the next 3 years.
Move to approve.
Thank you, Tim. Is there a
Second.
comment? All right, thank you. Any further discussion or questions?
I thought we were waiting for a partnership agreement before we approve.
Thank you. Yep, so the loan would be contingent upon receiving the partnership agreement that is established between them, and that would be reviewed by the loan review committee.
So with that, it wouldn't come back to this body for another approval, it would be delegated to the loan review committee to review and approve that before the loan could close. So
That's our contingency.
that would be the contingency here. As long as that happens, then that's baked into this, the motion. Yeah, that's a good
Yeah, thank you.
Is there any additional discussion or questions? Just to disclose that Chris and Lana are working with my department at Lions Bank for some commercial financing too, so I'll be abstaining from the vote. Anything else? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? And that's me, Ryan. Okay, item number 2 under the action items is a loan amendment to A&M Hiller. This I could probably just say that the original approval from the committee was for monthly payments due to their type of business, seasonal agricultural type business. They'd like to have it be an annual payment for when that loan closes, and so that is the change here today to be reviewed and approved.
Move to approve, Cover.
Thanks, Tim.
Second.
Second. Any further discussion on this item? And again, they have their banking relationship at Lions Bank, so I'm gonna abstain from this vote too. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, any abstentions? I abstain. All right, so that concludes the action items on the agenda. I'm gonna go back to the status report and try to resume that discussion. I'm sorry for the interruption. I just want to make sure we took care of those items before.
Brian, are there any other things that require a vote?
That's the end of the votes.
All right, then I might just take off and go back to my office. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, you're fine.
Accreditation of the business department is an important thing.
Yes.
Re-accreditation.
Do you have time to get back to your office for the call?
Yeah, I'll be good.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Rob.
Appreciate the heads up.
Sorry.
Have a good day.
You too, take care.
Bye-bye.
All right, so, you were about to say something and I rudely interrupted. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
no, that's okay, that's okay. I was just thinking about, the flow, kind of what Mary Ann was saying and Amy was saying. If I, being in business, not here in the county, but if we set up this program, I put the training on the kind of business etiquette and professionalism before they came to the business. I wouldn't want them going to the business and not, I wouldn't expect the business to train them in that. But what I was thinking is if there were the capability to have individuals that were aligned with the business. You know, I'll just pick myself, marketing or other business types of projects, so that you could be the liaison with the business, that we funded the roles. So if I'm coming to Mary Ann's business and I've got 3 high school kids, they shadow, but then they also have a project, and that we're accountable to the business for the project and helping the kids, you know, whatever it is. And it could even be that way with Amy's team as well. It just depends on what, you know, I mean, obviously the college students are more at a different level, but that to me has always been the challenge when you're trying to give a younger person an experience in the business beyond shadowing. So I think shadowing is a great first step, right? But to make it more meaningful, if it's a level past that, to have someone accountable, like if someone was an accountant, you know, if Doreen decides she wants to do that and she goes into different businesses with kids doing accounting projects or financial analysis or whatever it is, or I'm helping them with marketing or whatever other types of, I'm sure the basic business functions, some of us who have years of business experience could help with broader than what our specialty is, right? I mean, Doreen could obviously help with a lot more than that, and I could help with a lot more than marketing, but creating that kind of coach, single point of contact for the company, you know, the kids aren't showing up, it's not Mary Ann's job to chase them down, it's my job, whoever was in that role, Doreen or whomever was in that situation. So how do you create a set of those people that are either compensated or volunteered because they're retired, or that work, like there's integrated into this program that also helps Amy maybe at a higher level as well, which might then require, you know, a nurse to do nursing or a teacher to do I mean, they do have teaching already, so we don't need to go there, but they're just trying to think about how, you know, how that works. Or if it's a smaller business like a winery, let's say, and you put 3 wineries together and they do a project. So there's a point of contact that's already a professional and it's some way, shape, or form that's either hired by us or embedded in the school program, or just one program, like Amy was saying. I thought that was a really brilliant way to leverage everything that they already have and not try to recreate it, but to make it more beneficial for the employers in the area so that everyone has better experience. Just that liaison level might be enough to make it.
Good way to look at it. Be more sustainable.
Mm-hmm. So I know when we get interns, you know, I forbid my team from, they cannot, well, we don't do copies anymore, but we used to, right? Copying and mailing, I'm like, no, what's the project they're gonna work on and how are you gonna oversee them to develop them to be able to deliver that in the end? So they can see what they accomplished, because.
That's what that training is.
Yeah, one of the.
Do you pay?
But not a lot, not like 15, 18, 20 bucks an hour, but the more meaningful the project, the less the pay becomes an issue, right? And so then I allow them to do the shadowing part too, like sit in on a global meeting, you know, join a call for this, whatever they are, that makes it more meaningful to them to see broader than that one project. But I think the other piece of it is also back to the employer for this liaison role, because the millennials, at least those that I've had the opportunity to work with in our company, they are motivated by being valued. Right? I mean, money plays a role, but if you don't say thank you and you don't appreciate what they're doing and whatever all that is as you're developing them, they're just like, I'm out of here. And that's not a super costly thing to do, but you've got to think about it, right? And so that liaison could also help the companies even help them with more of that millennial cohort in their, potentially. I mean, Mary and I, present company excluded, you probably already do that, but not everybody thinks about it that way, because they might not be as motivated by a pay increase as they would be able to, and I know in a manufacturing environment it's not always easy, but giving them flex time or saying you can work 4 10s instead of 5 8s, or you know, just different ways like that to motivate them, and actually have, you know, groups of these teams solve challenges like that. You give them a challenge, they may not solve it, I mean, they may come up with some wild hair idea and you guys like, yeah, no, we're not doing that, but just the whole process of critical thinking, right? And then they learn something, even if it's not adopted, they would learn why, but then that liaison person is the one that's coaching them through that. Tim, I could see you coaching them through, lots of different scenarios that could be beneficial to the company. So I think there's a way to take, that's why I asked you the initial question, just because I figured that they had that. I mean, everybody has that.
For the field periods, they have to propose the project.
Mm-hmm.
And then the one person in charge of field periods at QCA basically approves,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that works, that meets the criteria of a beneficial field period, and then they're
Right,
allowed to.
you probably have to have, that obviously would have to be done at the level if they're getting credit through the Gemini program as well, but
Yep. Yeah.
I know, I mean, even if the kids are going on to higher ed, like Grace is studying nursing and she had a lot of Gemini credits,
Mhm.
they don't take them for, say, nursing per se. I mean, some of the AP credits they do, but it simply gave her more seniority so she could get the classes she wanted, which is a huge deal when you're, enrolling in classes. So there's a hidden benefit in there, even though, like in some instances, I'm sure, Steve's kids, they actually got credit toward their degree, whereas nursing, it's like, yeah, whatever, you took biology, good for you, but it still added up to put her in a more senior position. So there's other benefits in that whole program that help kids, and financially, right? Because those credits are worth a lot of money when especially if you're going to a four-year school. So, but yeah, I think linking that whole piece, but having that one person, I think, Marianne, is what I heard you say in terms of coordination. And then, while Amy has those two people for, what'd she say, 800? Then if any of those 800 are local, then maybe those liaison people help with the local, right? They'd have to have some approval or something. I don't know. Anyway.
I think the work is as important or more important now than it ever is, especially at the high school level. There's jobs out there that we haven't heard of yet. There are new jobs being created all the time, and to have kids get out and get exposed to different types of careers before they've plotted their path, then they can be intentional about what college they want to go to, that they don't want to go to college. They can be more intentional, be more informed.
Yeah.
And then, not for nothing, college education's more expensive every year. So that first year at the wrong place or second year is more costly than ever. So to have tried out a few different career paths already and to know what you might like or what you don't like, and to give kids those opportunities in high school is hugely important.
Yeah.
And it's important at the college level too. I'd be curious to know if there's a statistic out there, the number of kids graduating high school that know what they want to do for the next X amount of years and then do it.
Yeah.
And then at college, it's a higher percentage, but it's still, I bet, a very low percentage. But I think one way to increase those percentages is to get out and actually see what it's like to do this job, or to be an accountant, to be a banker, to be on the manufacturing floor. Is it fun? Is it not fun? Do I like it?
And service too. I mean, police, fire, EMTs, and the kids, to your point, Ryan, though, there's all these channels out there now in the way they communicate. And like I was saying, Marianne, like they bring that information to, like, there's this whole new, Microsoft bought that AI company, chat something, and I'm going, crap, I have to learn a whole new platform that is probably the first run at Google, that Google's had any competition since Bing was envisioned, never really delivered. So, I was just trying to make it a two-way street, so they bring, what if they brought something to the bank that you guys weren't thinking about?
Yeah.
How to communicate, just making it up, but, or pay or make one.
No, it's definitely a two-way street.
So Mike, this high school program, you're saying they would get high school credit? It would be like business 110, they get some credit?
Not right now.
Okay.
Maybe as it develops further, that it's really on the ground floor right now.
Sure.
And that's why we're having the conversations, and it's gonna be reaching out to the businesses to have exactly this conversation, to find out what makes sense, how to make it most beneficial for everybody. But right now, the objective is just to have a shadow program in place, so it wouldn't be credited initially. Again, it could work that direction, but it's just to get more students out there to understand better what they want to do or don't want to do.
I've had about 20 field period students from Hugo College over the time. And it's a good program, it's phenomenal. And we're getting a different quality of field period student as time goes on. I've got one now that I can't get him to show up. I can't get him to call when he says he's gonna be there at 9:30 Wednesday. He calls at noon and said, I couldn't make it today. It's frustrating. They're supposed to do 140 hours. He was gonna do it in January over the break. By January 15th, he had 2 hours.
Do you pay for your
No.
periods?
But he does get college credit for it.
Yeah.
And that's a discussion that we had off your.
And I've had some phenomenal ones too, just.
I think it depends on how hungry they are, and that's the problem. If their expenses are funded by parents at a certain point, they are not trying to pay a car payment, they're not trying to go to school and pay for school in many cases. I think that's the difference with the students,
Yeah.
is that they're just not hungry enough, and that's why they don't show up. I don't mean to, I don't wanna paint it with a broad brush, but, if you need your job, you are going to show up.
Right.
And people, I mean, we go through so many people, Campac's turnover is like 75%. It's ridiculous. Annually, it's ridiculous, and it's like that cost of turning that many people over is crazy. That's my challenge right now, but I think that if you're gonna, I know in here where you say that, you wanna get the businesses on, the businesses in on the bottom, it'll help. And many times I think you gotta come with it a little bit more, baked, the idea, like how this is gonna benefit the businesses, because they're not going to wanna do this. Not because they don't care about the students and their futures, but how do I work them in? How do I find the right, I might have, I've got this finance department, but I might not have the person, that leads this finance department, or the people that are coming to work don't care about the future of this high school student we put in front of them. It's not like everybody's gonna embrace the idea of the program. So I've got to find a manager that would, I'm not saying that we shouldn't be doing it. We should be doing it, but it's not as easy as just sending someone in because they're interested in accounting and we want to help you, but I don't know the experience they're going to get when no one's looking. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Absolutely, and that's
because you're dealing with people. It's all about people and personalities and behaviors, and
And the last thing you want is to get them assigned to someone who is not demonstrating the behaviors.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
really
Exactly.
taking a deeper role.
That's why no one reports to me when they come in.
And that's really where they're starting right now. And I know it's going to be a challenge to get time to talk to the right people and really do this, but it's just having these initial conversations so that the school can understand what will work, what won't work, and tying in, like Amy said, other programs that are already there, so it's not reinventing the wheel.
Yeah, but this is a prolonged conversation. I'm sorry I interrupted, but this is like a longer conversation that needs to take place at a different time, in a different place though, right? Not here, right now, right? I mean.
Well, right, it's just an update of what we're.
This is just an update,
we're-
so
Right.
we could,
Yeah. So
You want
over
my
the
input,
next
I could go
next
all day
couple
long.
weeks, we're gonna start interviewing and calling businesses, so you'll be on the
Yeah.
list.
So it sounds
Okay.
like, Mike, you should take Marianne and I out for lunch.
Yes.
We have a long lunch and
Sounds.
there's a lot of
like a
passion
great idea.
for it, right?
Absolutely.
yeah.
Bring Jim-
Employers are,
Bring
yet 10
Jim's
to 15,
experience along.
10 to 15 years of it not going to get better.
Yeah.
Likely, it will actually get worse
Right.
for the next 10 to 15.
This is my big challenge right now.
So programs like this are
So-
gonna have to be developed.
Yeah,
And back to
absolutely.
your point about the trainings beforehand, that conversation was had on Friday. And
Yeah.
it's so doing that business etiquette training before they ever get
Mhm.
to the business, and then even to the point of doing OSHA training. So getting those students prepared before they're ever on site is a big factor, but it's
Yeah.
gonna be on the ball here.
Yeah.
And then on the other end, the business doing, if they are on site, whether it's forklift training, giving the students then a certification from the business that they can use going forward. So, we can talk forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for the
Yeah.
updates on that. I hope that all continues. We'll be curious to hear how it progresses for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, sign us up, sign me up, Mike.
Will do.
Uh,
Somebody started it years ago. We had one student, I remember, and it was good. Very
It
motivated.
was 2 years ago, it was good.
Well, they only did it one
Sound
time.
like it, yeah.
It was a nice experience.
Mike, do you have any other items on your status report?
Only thing I'll add, I think I put in there the Wing Walk sold out in like 12 hours. Back to the other events, the community table is scheduled for, Bridge Dinner is scheduled for September 9th.
Okay.
Tickets going on sale August 1st, most likely, so.
I am going.
Put that in your calendar, because we're not expanding it by much, if at all, so it'd still be 160 to 180 attendees. We're gonna do a big push, media push, announcing when tickets are gonna go on sale. They have 2 separate windows to buy, to allow more people, if you missed the first one, you still have a shot. But they're in 6 hours this year, so they'll, might have
You
a
said
ticket.
160 to 180 tickets.
Attendees, yeah. So, might have a Ticketmaster type prop on
Sorry.
it.
That's a, remind us so we can all be.
Yeah, absolutely will, but we just met Monday, so the date is scheduled, so.
Yeah,
you know,
no, that's
it's
cool.
Scalpers.
Yes.
There were some scammers on the Wing Walk sales. Jess said that the chamber had to shut down comments on Facebook because people were saying, yep, I got tickets, and we're trying to sell them after the fact. So,
Steve, do you have some highlights you want to share with us on yours?
Sure. Along the field period thing, we're planning, I'll send the date out. QP College is planning, they're calling it KCX, which is gonna be an expo of some of the more creative field period projects and experiential learning programs that have been completed in the last year. And there'll be a contest for those projects, and we're gonna reach out to businesses in the area to get them to come, so even if they didn't necessarily have a field period student or a project, they'll at least see some of the creative things that are being done along those lines of how do we make better use of these projects. Let's see, the development agreement for the McFetrich farm should have by next week. Just as we're sitting here, I got an email. Hopefully by next week I'll have a draft to probably share with Harris Beach on their end, just to see what it looks like. There'll be 3 different elements of it. Some small upfront payment, a land purchase agreement, ongoing revenue agreement, all of which are going to be all over the place in the beginning until some feasibility and market studies get done to show what rents will be and all that sort of thing. So it'll be kind of a moving target for a while, but hopefully within a week I'll have, I was told by next Friday, we'll have that. I think, what wasn't in here, Saturday, Greenwich hosted a public information session at the Duck Hunters Club on their screen intake project. The water, they bring in water from Seneca Lake, and some of their largest, the most critical challenge that they receive from those against Greenwich in total are all the fish they're killing. So they got this screen installed. It was massive. It's a massive pipe that went out there. The barge that brought them in had a full-size crane on the barge. These things are huge. And then the tunnel obviously goes out, and the screen moves around. And the holes in the screen are the size, they're 5 millimeters. They're the size of basically the little square on your credit card. That's the size of the holes, and then they have water jets that clear off any seaweed and stuff that gets stuck on it. So really an amazing feat to put this thing out there. And oddly enough, there wasn't a single opponent to Greenwich at this public information session, because I will state they don't care. That's just, they'll just find the next thing to complain about. They really weren't against the fish being killed. They're just trying to figure out ways to stop.
You're just against
Right,
Greenwich.
they're just against Greenwich.
How do they know how many fish were they being caught in a tank, they're dead fish, or how could you measure that if somebody just says they're killing, there's no proof?
No, in fact, every engineering study, third-party engineering study that's been done, paid for by Greenwich, or DEC, or the EPA, has defended and supported Greenwich, every one of them. There is no study that shows what they've done is anything other than the one element where Greenwich is above whatever the minimum criteria is the outflow of the water, the temperature of the water coming out of their pipe. So they discharge into the outlet. So it comes into the lake, discharge the outlet. I think the number they're supposed to stay within is 2 degrees warmer. It almost is always exactly 10 degrees warmer. If they have the math of what that shows, it does not impact spawning. The 10 degrees is not a big enough issue to impact anything. Again, it's not their words, they have the studies that show that's the case. And they have variable speed drives on their water pumps that they can actually increase the amount of water coming in, so they can dilute that a little bit more and get the temperature down. It's really a pretty interesting study. And it just frustrates me again that it won't matter, that the opponents out there will just say
Is there a
stuff.
point where they can claim they're just being bullied?
They could, yeah, they are saying that already.
Okay.
They're saying that, but you get the Sierra Club just funding any one of these lawsuits in there. And they got state legislators that are basically New York City based, coming up with laws to prevent this. And DEC has denied their air permits, so it's not just that we not want you to Bitcoin mine, we're going to shut down the entire plant. So that appeal is underway, that hopefully they can stay open. The interesting thing is that they're 106 megawatts is what they can produce. Something like 20,000 megawatts in total is produced by New York. See if I can find the right number. He said 20,000 megawatts of total power produced over the winter in New York. They did 105 megawatts. So it's, the fact that they're claiming this is a draw and all, it's just no data that really supports any of these arguments. Now, the one interesting thing is, as we start to see more brownouts and such in the area, because the grid, the system itself is overtaxed here. He's like, our plant helps those. That if we go offline, wait till you see how much, the increase in brownouts and such people will have at their homes, at the factories and all that stuff. So it's a whole different argument on that side, but didn't need to get down that. And pretty interesting story, and that it's in, the screens are in now, and they're moving, and Greenwich is taking some, 1.5 million now in charitable donations they made since they've been back up and running. That does not include all the millions in pilot and sales tax and additional benefit taxes that they paid out. So I think in general it's a pretty good story, but that's it's lost from time to time. That's all.
Okay.
Unless there's questions.
I've got a quick question for you. So yesterday you did mental health first aid training?
No.
Okay.
I was a late scratch on that one. I had a mental breakdown and I couldn't go forward with it.
I wondered, I was just wondering what that was and where you find.
I'll find out.
Yeah, that's
Two of
all.
the-
Did you say you'd be certified something afterwards?
Yeah,
Did
the
you say
Indian actually
already
get a certified,
certifiable?
yeah, first aid mental health counselor thing.
Marion, we had them at work through the whole program, yeah, where there's
This was like
mental
a
health.
6-hour course with 2 hours of pre-work
Yeah.
and I didn't do the pre-work.
Oh, okay, so you're going for a certification and you've got.
I didn't know it was.
certified
We have lots
I
of people
didn't-
certified at work, I can
Yeah,
happily
so
talk.
that's what I'm trying to, get more,
Oh, okay.
more, information around and missing from our benefits program, but.
I thought it was sort of like a general awareness
Yeah.
training thing and I didn't realize that it was a full in-depth.
It's kind of a first line responder
Yeah.
to help people when they're basically in crisis.
Yeah,
more or
yeah.
less, yeah.
That I would like to be learning more about.
To identify the signals before it gets to the crisis and
Yeah,
things
yeah.
like, and just to be there so that if someone had an issue, they know how to talk about it. Obviously, they're not therapists or any, that kind of certification, but to get them pointed in the right direction so that they get help. In a nutshell, that's what we do.
Trust me, you know, I would like to, being an HR manager, you know, a lot of times the shootings that you'll hear about in companies, you know, right out of the HR manager. So I just am very tuned into that and wanna make sure that we bring, you know, just some more resources to our.
It's a whole nother piece of the millennial piece that we don't only do it, obviously, for millennials, but that holistic package of benefits and that it's okay to have an alternative lifestyle or have a mental health issue or whatever it is, it has to be okay. Yeah, happy to.
Okay, sorry to call you out. What'd you do for Valentine's Day then?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So our
Need
next
2 grants.
scheduled meeting is March 15th. It's the third Wednesday of every month. It's a standing meeting throughout the rest of the year. And so just a reminder, we have a small group, and so I appreciate everybody RSVPing this meeting, and just would put out a reminder that we continue to do that each meeting so that staff can plan accordingly in these action items.
We will have all 3 meetings next month and we will have audit presentation.
Okay.
Hopefully they'll be ready, then we might put it back 1 week, if that's, I don't know what that would be, March 22nd, so.
Yeah, okay. But do keep that up and letting us know ahead of time so that we can
Yep.
plan accordingly and make sure we have our forms. So, thank you, everybody.
Thanks.
And motion to adjourn.
So moved, Cutler.
All right,
Second.
we are adjourned. Thank you all.
Thanks, Steve.
Take care, everyone.